We'd like to welcome everyone to the Provo Municipal Council regular meeting. It is Tuesday, November 5th, 5:30. We're going to try and get everyone out of here as soon as possible. We do know it is election night. The elected officials we have here today, we have the Mayor, Michelle Kafusi, Councillor George Handley, Councillor Gary Garrett, myself, Catrice McKay, Councillor Rachel Whipple, Councillor Becky Bogdan, and Councillor Craig Christensen. We will have an opening prayer by Melanie McCord.
That they may participate in the government of our city. We pray for thy help tonight during this meeting, that we may be calm, and we ask for thy spirit to be with us to inspire our leaders to make good decisions. We thank thee again and express our love and gratitude in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Melanie. The Pledge of Allegiance was provided by Councillor Whipple.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as indicated on the screen, a required public hearing will be held for certain agenda items prior to council action. After each such item has been presented, time to comment will be provided for all those who wish to speak. For items that do not require a public hearing, public comment will still be taken following presentation of the item, but will be limited to 10 minutes. At this time, up to 15 minutes have been set aside for an open public comment period, which is intended to allow comment on matters that do not appear on the agenda, but are limited to topics regarding municipal business or within municipal council purview. Persons who speak during this time to an item that is on the agenda will not normally be afforded a second opportunity to speak during the comment period specific to that item. During any public comment period, each speaker will generally be limited to 2 minutes. Due to noticing requirements, no formal action will be taken in this meeting to matters that do not appear on the agenda. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium. Those participating on Zoom will need to use the raise hand feature to indicate they wish to comment. The chair may choose to alternate between in-person and online commenters. Please begin your comments by stating your name and your city of residence. You'll have 2 minutes to speak.
I was just finalizing all of my ADU permit paperwork upstairs, and they told me you guys were going to be talking about that soon. So I thought I'd come and just say I'm a citizen in Provo and recently took advantage of the special use permit policy to build an ADU in a zone that would be otherwise not allowed to have an ADU. And the process was relatively smooth. I met with my neighbors that I needed to meet with, discussed my plans, talked in detail about how it would affect the neighborhood and got their approval, went through the building process, and we have a lovely family living there with 2 kids, and they're a fantastic addition to the neighborhood. I know some people are concerned about changing the nature of a neighborhood by having too many residential units, but I can say having built a legal unit in a neighborhood where there are plenty of illegal units, the process of making sure that it was done legally, safely, according to code, and in a way that was on the up and up with my neighbors, made the entire process beneficial to us and to them. And I'm all for having a legal process where folks who live in a zone that isn't already allowing ADUs to make it possible in agreement with and conversation with neighbors, as opposed to the under the table stuff that's happening all over the place. So I'm highly in favor of the special use permits for ADUs. Joey Franklin, North Edgemont.
Thank you. Hey, Melanie. Melanie McCord, Provo.
She made me pray so that I'd calm down, which I think is just tricky. Okay. Esteemed council members, respected administration and employees. I have complained to you before about inadequate staff briefings at work sessions. I had hoped that you listened to me and took steps to remedy the problem. I like to believe that my objections had something to do with the recent departure of my least favorite department head, who was an egregious offender. But maybe I am deluding myself. Maybe you all ignored me. Today at work session, you received a staff briefing so inadequate it was misleading. The man who gave the briefing did not present a complete history of the problem, which left you as the decision makers lacking important information. He did not identify the mistakes that were made by past councils and administrations, which I suppose covers the backsides of the people who made the mistakes, but by not identifying them, he doomed us to repeat them. And most importantly, he did not explain the consequences those mistakes caused. In fact, he neglected to mention them at all, misleading the councils to believe that only good things came from the decisions made years ago by short-sighted leaders. He actually implied that we should applaud the mistake makers. When I heard him blow right past the serious and life-changing results of the poor decisions made in the past 2.5 decades, with barely a mention, I just simply couldn't stand for it. I sat down and wrote a scathing statement of dissent for immediate release to the press. Then I calmed down and decided to come here tonight and make a small fuss instead. I will write my concerns in an email and send it to you. I hope you will read it. This situation of having an irate resident come to disrupt your public comment time could have been avoided had I had the option of briefing you.
Send us an email, Melanie. We do read it. Thank you. We legally have to stay to the 2 minutes. Yes, but then we have to be consistent. And then when we have something crazy going on, not you, but when we do have situations going on, we have, it gets us a problem. Yes. Oh, we can do that.
We don't turn public comment into a question and answer session, Melanie, like this.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing no more public comment, we'll move to the action agenda. An implied motion on a resolution approving the transfer of $220,000 from the General CIP Fund to the Legacy CIP Fund and the associated appropriation of $220,000 in the Legacy CIP Fund to pay for Fire Station Number 1 construction costs. Is he presented by Jeremy Hedman, our fire chief.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about our Fire Station 1 and the funding. As you know, Fire Station 1's in the core of our downtown and hasn't had a fire apparatus in it for over 20 years. Getting this station open is going to get us a fire apparatus as well as a paramedic ambulance downtown, which is an amazing feat for us in the city. It adds a 5th fire apparatus, which gives us some resiliency and depth to our ability to cover the city when we have multiple emergencies going on at once. We had an amazing team work on this project. We feel like we've delivered an economical building that will be in service in the city for many years, up to 50 years in the future. So the team has been phenomenal to work with, and I just want to make sure they all know how much we appreciate them. We started the project with a contingency of $294,000 here today because that's not quite enough. Part of the reason that that's not enough is right at the start, we redesigned the footprint of the fire station because the potential for a parking structure to the west of the station. And that is, that created $83,000 worth of cost just in the redesign and moving the parking to the north. So we were in a hole before we even started the project. We had a lot of issues along the way. This is a picture of the underground on 100 South, right where all of those conduits run. We were supposed to put a storm drain line, and we couldn't do that. So we had to redesign it, put in some additional manholes and with an expense. We had some supply chain issues. We were able to complete the project, or we anticipate completing the project on time. With the exception of this generator was going to be delayed until February or March of next year. So we found a different brand, which ended up costing us a little more and also affected our contingency. We're here today because we need the $220,000 to finish this project. As you know, as was mentioned in the work session earlier, this increased from $200,000 in the work session. We increased it another $20,000, and that was because of the impact of the asphalt along 300 West. Our Public Works Department came in, did a lot of work for us for free. They cut it out, tore it out, and then we had to pay for the material and laying down of the asphalt, which ended up having to go clear out into the street as opposed to just right along the concrete, which was the initial plan. We added this slide because there was a question in the work session on the sequence of funding. As you can see, there was money appropriated 3 different times prior to this. The first 2 were placeholders because we didn't know what it was going to cost. We went out to bid and determined we needed an additional $1.5 million. We got that additional 1.5 million was all from either impact fees, CARES, or ARPA money. None of the projects so far and we're not asking for any to come out of the general fund. We are in need of 220,000 more of fire impact fees to complete this project. And we anticipate an open house on December 7th. If we'd love to have you there, we'll send you an invitation, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions for Jeremy? Counselor Whipple.
So on the asphalt work that they did, you just paid for materials. So if a private entity had torn up the street that badly, how much would it have cost them to have that repair done?
I'm really not sure what they would charge to come in and cut it out and tear it out, because we didn't get a bill for that, so I don't really know.
But we got a deal.
We got a great deal. Our Public Works did half the work basically for free, but then we just had to pay for the asphalt and the labor to lay down the asphalt.
So no chargebacks on that?
On the Public Works
yeah,
part, nope, they just did it because
They love you.
basically we're good partners and they take good care of us. So it was really actually kind of heartwarming that they came in and helped us out.
Okay. I'm so grateful that you were able to give us that explanation for the 20,000. Thank you.
What was that noise? It's like some. Oh, excellent. Okay. Gary Garrett.
Yes, Chief Hedman, could you just remind us, I was looking for the overall budget. What was your contingency on this budget? And I assume that was long spent.
Are you talking the initial contingency?
Yes,
It was 293,900 something, just shy of $294,000 was our initial contingency. The total after the 220 that we're asking for today would be less than an 8% contingency for the total project.
Okay, thank you.
And normally you do 10%, and this project only had 5%.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Any more questions? All right. We'll open this item up for public comment. Thank you, Chief.
Is there a reason I can't get onto the Provo guest internet connection?
You can talk to staff right here, Melanie.
Okay.
Any public comment on this item?
Appropriate time, but I'll jump up. In the new fire station, there is not a proposed weight room or gym for our officers to access. Is that correct?
Yes, I think the idea is it Chief, that you're going to use the one in this building?
Interesting, and that's adequately, that can handle the increase in officers that would use that? Or
Well,
would funding go to improving, making improvements to
do you-
that?
we need your name first.
Oh, hi, my name is Tana Hoover. I'm in Provo South.
Thank you. Do you want to, Chief, do you want to respond to that?
Let's make sure she's done with her.
If there would be cost accommodations to
Good
this
point.
building to accommodate your officers there to have the improvements necessary, or if it would be able to handle.
The equipment we have here can handle every person that works out kind of has their different things they like, but it has adequate stuff for them to work out with here. There is potential to increase what is here currently and has been discussed, but I'm not sure where that is at.
Noted, and other accommodations, even for our officers working outside the city, that can use our local recreation
Chair-
facilities.
Chair McKay, could I just interject? And again, as a matter of protocol, if we could have you express all of your concerns in your comment,
Council.
and then when you're done with your comment, if you can sit down, when the public comment is over, then the council can ask staff to respond to the comments.
Okay, so just say all your comments, please.
Yeah, that was my biggest one. I guess like the accommodations here and if they would have access to our local recreation facilities. I know I personally work out with a lot of our officers at Peaks Ice Arena.
Okay.
So like those accommodations with that.
All right, thank
So-
you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chief, do the firemen use the rec center and like the Provo Peaks Workout Center? Do they have access to that?
They do, and they use both
Okay,
frequently.
thank you. Any more public comment for this item? All right, any council discussion on this item? All right, seeing no council discussion, we are going to go to the vote. Counselor Bogdan. Yes. Counselor Christensen.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Handley.
Yes.
Counselor Hoban.
Yes.
Counselor McKay, yes. Counselor Whipple.
Yes.
So that passes 7-0. Next, we have an applied motion on a public hearing for the consolidated plan priorities, and this will be presented by Melissa McNally.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The purpose of this public hearing is to allow residents to give input as we are getting ready to create the consolidated plan. This is a 5-year plan that is required by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the intent is to help direct priority funding for our CDBG and home programs. And that's all.
Thanks, Melissa. So we heard about this in depth at the at the work meeting. We'll open this item up for public comment. All right, any council discussion on this item? Counselor Whipple.
So this is actually really important work that we do for distributing funds that come into our community and how we're able to use these funds to help in all sorts of projects. So I would just like for the public to know that this information is available on base, like they can see what we've been presented, and they're always welcome to email us or to give their feedback on how they feel those priorities should be, because we have a sense of what the priorities and how we should weigh these different funding opportunities are. But we would welcome the perspectives of people in our community. So that's all.
Thank you. Any more comments? Discussion? All right, we will take a vote on the applied motion.
Chair McKay, I'm sorry, that was an error in the chair notes. There's not actually a motion on the table because there's no
Okay,
item to
I was
approve.
wondering about that. I don't know if she needed our approval to move forward. All right, thank you, Melissa. We just needed public comment on that it was noticed. We are now going to, if there's no objection, we're going to adjourn the Provincial Council and convene as the Redevelopment Agency Governing Board by unanimous consent.
Hello, welcome to the Redevelopment Agency Governing Board. We have a resolution of the Redevelopment Agency of Provo City designating a survey area for the proposed city center community reinvestment project area. This will be presented by Keith Morey.
Hi, so we had several conversations in the past about a potential new project area that we could create in the downtown area. And if you remember right, we had talked about originally kind of starting right here around City Hall and what could potentially be done to create an opportunity for the old City Hall block. And then as we talked about future development, infrastructure needs that are required to be updated along Center Street and surrounding areas, we felt like it was probably appropriate to consider at least expanding that project area boundary. So we went through several different iterations and shared some maps back and forth with each other and shared some with you and with Public Works. And you have the map in front of you now that is probably the biggest version of what we've talked about. And I'm assuming that you all have a copy of that. Okay.
We do
Yeah,
now.
there it is. Okay. And just for reference, nothing is set in stone. We can alter this or amend this however we want. I think that there are some significant potential areas that are reasons why it's as big as it is. We started around the City Hall block and the revitalization of the old City Hall area. As we talked about improvements along Center Street, that broadened that out to include Center Street. When we're talking about First South, we thought about, could there potentially be improvements that could need to be done along First South? And so we expanded it to include that right away as well. And then if you think about University Avenue and some of the improvements that could potentially need to be done as UDOT does the work for the viaduct over the next couple of years, as the Harris Music Block contemplates redevelopment and what could potentially be done there. And so the project area kind of grew just anticipating some of those possibilities. We went all the way up to First East on Center Street to incorporate the old Los Hermanos, which I don't know if you've all seen that, but that actually has been demolished. The facade they preserved, but if you go behind that, that's all been completely scraped. It's absolutely beautiful. Considering what it was like and the nuisance it had become, it's wonderful to see that that's taken place. We extended the boundary to the north to include First North, because if at some point we ever determined that there was a desire to create maybe more of a pedestrian environment along Center Street, and there's no plans to do that right now, but some of the things that we've done, like the speed bumps, could there be a day and time as we're doing infrastructure improvements along Center Street that maybe we would want to encourage traffic to First North instead of Center Street? If you were going to do that, then you might want that boundary to fully include the right of way of First North to allow that to happen. And so you see that, and if that were to happen, could there potentially be a need to do something with Fresh Market and with the properties to farther to the west? There's 2 blocks there that are west of Fresh Markets. The only reason why those are included, we don't have any projects at all, and I don't want any of the residents to be concerned, but as Public Works evaluated what potential work would have to be done for traffic or for utility upgrades, they just thought that maybe it might be meaningful to include that boundary. So that's just context. I think it's really up to us now to determine, did we bite off more than we can swallow? Or are we appropriately considering all the future needs? My biggest fear would be that for some reason we arbitrarily draw a line in the sand, and then Gordon comes to us from Public Works, in 6 months or a year and says, by the way, I need to do some utility upgrade and I could really use redevelopment's help in doing something. And we say, crap, that was just outside the line that we drew. So but having said that, I don't have any, I'm not hung up on this particular drawing that's in front of you or this particular map. And so if you have a concern or you've heard from your constituents, anything, feel free to express that because I'm not going to be frustrated. My only encouragement would be, let's probably preserve Center Street for sure, because I think there's improvements that we're going to need to do along that. I think we want, of course, the old City Hall block. There is some value to me in some of that right of way along University, because I think there may be something that we might potentially need to do with some of those redevelopment opportunities like the Harris block. And I mean, I don't know that we have, there's no specific ask, but if someone were to come to us and say, we'd love to redevelop that block, but here's a gap that we can't fill, it'd be nice to have a tool that maybe we could work with them if that was a problem. So I don't know if that helps.
Okay, we have a question from Board Member Hoban.
Yeah, thanks, Keith.
You bet.
Help me understand philosophically why, we need to do this now as opposed to maybe we do it later when that need arises. And, for example, well, shoot, let's make the whole city a redevelopment, survey zone. And,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
What is the potential downside
There's no
of
potential.
including more than not? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. It does. And I think it's a good question. My primary concern is the redevelopment of the old City Hall block.
Right.
And so if we're squeamish about any of this,
Yeah.
give me these 2 blocks and we'll call it good. Okay. Because I
get
the
that.
developer that we're working with has not come forward and said, yeah, we have a gap yet. But we know, just as an example, one of the things we're going to want to try to accomplish when we redevelop that block is the construction of some kind of a parking structure. And so to the extent we can use redevelopment tools to help us accomplish that, I think we want that in place. So that those 2 blocks and potentially the impact that they have on the Covey Center, I think are important to include.
So I think I understand why you want them included, because you're saying this helps us get the conversations going. We can reassure potential interested parties that, this is included in the redevelopment area, and it kind of makes it so you don't have to bring it back to the board again and, try to get something approved. So, I think I understand why include it. I guess I'm wondering, like, why as a board, we might want to be more conservative, what the potential downside would be in expanding it too wide. Do we have any?
Well, I mean, if I can answer that too.
Yeah, if you can answer it, great.
The message that you're sending to the public with this map is nothing other than we want everybody in the public to know we're looking at this area because we notice some deficiencies that we think need to be paid attention to. We're not exactly sure what that means or what kind of projects we're going to do, but we want everybody to know that within this area, we're doing an analysis to figure out what's going on and are there things we can do to fix those, and can redevelopment be used as a tool? If we determine within that area that a specific project, for example, along Center Street might make sense, we'll define and create a specific project area along Center Street. It probably won't be this whole area, but all we're telling the public is we want you to know we're looking at this broader, very large area because it's important to us. It's the heart of our community, and we're trying to pay attention to infrastructure needs. And we want you to know if you've got concerns or if you're aware of something, now's the time to come and tell us.
Yeah. I'm just looking for if there's any, state, law says you can only have certain
No.
percentage of your city that's a redevelopment survey area.
Not in an actual, you can only have a certain, what is it? 5% of the total assessed property value of Provo in an actual redevelopment project area. This is just a study area.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not actually creating TIF or
Yeah.
diverting property taxes or
Okay.
anything right now for any.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was
we
looking
drew
for.
we drew a
is-
map. I mean, a circle on a map. That's all we've done.
At some point, it does matter. We don't want to do
If
more than we need.
if we create
But
the
for right
interlocal
now-
agreements that tell the state to redistribute property taxes, we would define an area and then it would make a difference
Yeah,
because
thank
that
you.
area would be important, but that's not this area.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Board Member Christensen.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I had the same. I'm glad you answered that. I love the expanded focus of this because I'd love to see us be much more innovative about what we're doing downtown. This is the heartbeat of our city. I mean, a lot of cities just have like State Street. We've actually got a heartbeat.
Yeah, we do. I
And
agree.
this-
100%.
this is-
And
this
it's
is
very rare in
remarkable.
Utah.
Yeah, this
is.
is remarkable. And so I like that it's expanded, and I think we do have to be careful. I guess the downside of having it too expanded is you lose focus. And so this to me creates the focus on the downtown area that is central, I think, to the city.
So I had a question. I appreciate the justification you gave for giving the 2 blocks west of the Fresh Market,
Uh-huh.
that was in conjunction with Public Works
Correct.
and looking at potential changes to traffic patterns and things in the future. I'm wondering why we have the half blocks that are on the north side. So the Discovery Academy building that's to the north of the Sherwin-Williams and Fresh Market, the old Blockbuster,
Just
the
trying
auto
to
thing.
follow property boundaries. I mean, there's no other reason beyond that. I mean, at some point I begin to get nervous about,
Uh-huh.
is it too big? And so taking a half block here or there seems to show that we're trying not to just say, we're looking at all of Provo, if that makes sense. But there's really there's no rhyme or reason to it other than in all the other areas, I took whole blocks, but where we could justify not having to take the whole block, we tried to.
Right, but you didn't just do the edge of the right of way as you did for most of the rest of the
Are you
boundary.
talking about north of First North?
Yes.
Yeah. And so again, there's no specific rhyme or reason except for following property boundaries. So if you want that line to be straight and you want it to be all the way to the block to the north on Second North, I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Well, I understand doing the half block, I think, but the question is, why did you do that instead of just doing a straight line of the
Because
right
then
of
you're,
way?
then you're going to cut properties in half or bisect properties. We were trying not to do that.
No.
Unless I misunderstand your question.
I'm not making myself clear. I'm sorry. To the right of it, the line is just at the edge of the right of way on the north side of 100 North Street. It doesn't go up into the blocks.
Right.
So why for those 3 blocks for 500 West, 400 West, and 300 West, are we going halfway up?
Because if you can see, for example, the Harmon's block where the old Harmon's dealership was,
Yes.
we were trying to take that into consideration because from my perspective, that's a potential development opportunity,
Okay.
maybe. And I don't have a plan for that, but that is some open space that is underserved because I think car dealerships have struggled kind of in that area. And we thought that maybe we might be able to do something with that or try to revitalize that in a way that might be meaningful.
Okay. So it was that we were looking at properties
Sure.
that
Right.
could be an opportunity
Yeah.
and not just limiting ourselves
Right.
to the right of way
course.
on that
Yes,
street.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
That was it.
Okay, sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah. Well, and certainly, yeah, that car dealership has had some issues there in the middle of downtown. It's kind of hidden.
Yeah, our car dealerships, if you look at what, kind of the nature of car dealerships around the country and in Utah, most of them have better visibility and access than ours have. So although ours are doing well, they're probably not doing as well as they could if they were in better locations. And this is one that I think has tried very hard to be successful. And it's not along a typical view corridor. It's a little difficult for them.
Yeah, because that one on 3rd South and University, they're hopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a more visible traffic area
Right.
than over here on First North.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Maury? Okay, then. Well, we will do, let's see.
If you approve this, then what we'll do is we'll work with our legal counsel to formalize this and bring this back. Or do we actually have a resolution so we can do that now?
So does this resolution?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Then we can use this. That's perfect.
All right. And
Yep,
this
and that's actually the
resolution
legal
has
description that
the
relates to it,
map
yep.
that was presented
Yep.
to us tonight.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, look at that.
So I think we're ready.
Okay. All right. So we will do a roll call vote on the resolution that we have before us. But first, Michael's going to give us some instruction. We're going to ask for a motion to approve this resolution.
I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
All right.
And did you open it for public comment?
No, not at all.
But I'll second it. And then
Okay.
you can move
Well, we're
forward to
going to
public
hold off on the motions. Do we have public comment on this? We did have council questions. So now we can invite the public to ask questions. Okay. I am seeing no public comment. Is there any online? Okay, that's closed then. Okay, any more board member discussion? Okay, jumping back to the motion. We have a motion that's been made by Christensen and it's been seconded by Bogdan. Any discussion on the motion? All right, now we will do our roll call vote. Thank you, Michael, for keeping us following the format there. Board Member Bogdan,
Yes.
Board Member Christensen.
Yes.
Board Member Garrett,
Yes.
Board Member Handley,
Yes.
Board Member Hoban,
Yes.
Board Member McKay,
Yes.
and Board Member Whipple is yes. The vote is unanimous 7-0 in favor of the resolution.
Thank you so much.
If there's no objection, we will now adjourn the Redevelopment Agency Governing Board meeting by unanimous consent.
Recording stopped.